Right, so if you want to start with your story, Mike, and give us some...
In 1997, I started a business. And that business was called the National Distance Learning College. It started with £1,500 in an old banger of a car. And over the following 4 years, it became the largest distance learning college in Europe, to the many, many millions of pounds. I also diversified into various other different businesses. One was called Thanks Marketing. I had involvement with JCB and all sorts of different things. It got up to the point where in 2001 I became Guardian International Entrepreneur of the Year. The business was arguably worth about £500 million, and I also was on various government quangos. One was on a government quango for education. A problem came up in the UK government in 2001 where Estelle Morris, who was the Secretary for State for Education, had made a mistake. My people had found out that the mistake was for £650 million. I was involved in that mistake and pointed out that I wasn't going to shut up about it. So over the next following 8 years, the UK government, Tony Blair's government, took my business to pieces. Took it to pieces to such an extent I lost absolutely everything. I was beginning to fight over that 8-year period, which culminated in me going to prison for 7 years for a £16.8 million fraud that never existed. I'm also the man who's supposed to have stolen £5.8 million from Tony Blair, so the News of the World said. This is the short version. I went to prison in 2008 on a 7-year sentence, coming out in 2012. Set up another business, which was manufacturing clothing, and it grew very fast, very, very quickly. I began to win my case because I was proving now my innocence and also the problem that the government had for £650 million. So what did they do? They wanted me to be shushed again, and they shushed me up again by giving me another 5 years in prison. This is the very, very short story. But the whole of my story involves everything from children's TV programmes, The Lampies, nepotism, and casting couch within the BBC, and covers many, many different levels of wonderment and very many different levels of downment, for want of a better expression. In 2018, my daughter visited me in prison and said, "Dad, when you get out, you've got to stop fighting it because they're going to kill you. You cannot prove your innocence. You cannot prove that they made a mistake for £650 million. You cannot get anything back, so stop it." So when I came out, I taught myself to paint. And now I'm the only person who's done Boris Johnson's portrait through COVID, and it hung for at least some time in number 10. I've exhibited with Gormley in London and also sold at Sotheby's. And now I'm writing the book of my story, which is called Mike's Magic, and it will tell the whole story of the beginning, the middle, of the end, of the huge up and down catastrophe of Mike, or now passively artisan.
Very nice, yeah. I can spice that bit out, yeah. That's good, excellent. So that's the book is going to be going all about this whole long meandering story and how that came about.
Just a little skinny over that.
Right, okay.
So my point was, right, you made a comment that why is this and why is that as regards what's on the website at the minute time.
Right.
It's left out for a deliberate reason.
So you don't want to fill that in yet? No.
I'm not quite ready to do that because I'm passively artist at the minute, a man who's had a torturous life but no detail in it. Sometime in the new year, the book will be ready, it will come out, and everybody will know that passively artist is Mike Smallman, etc. The government's number one nemesis, not the current government's.
Right, yeah. So, am I better at taking that in?
So it's ginormous
So the book you're going to write about the all ins and outs.
It'd be my life story, but
Now, so you said you did a painting of Boris Johnson for Boris Johnson. Have you got like any photos of that?
Yeah.
Right, because
that
Well,
was
it's just
it.
got that from the Downing Street.
brilliant. You see, that's fantastic because there you've got official proof that the Prime Minister has accepted that, thanking you for it. Obviously, it was put up. If you've got a picture of that artwork to go with that, that speaks volumes through association, because anytime you've got any celebrity figure or a powerful, important figure like a Prime Minister, and you can attach to that in any way, straight away you've just got a certain amount of the market who are just going to pay attention to you.
Absolutely. When the whole story comes out and it's related to Passive, the artist who does a bit of Fauvism, etc., and that massive pile of shit, because it is massive, you've only heard a little bit of it,
Right.
you standing on the top of that pile of shit, rather than lying underneath it, and you have got a presence, bar none. That the kudos, they, you know, whether people believe that I stole £5.8 million from Tony Blair.
How are you allegedly supposed to have done that? Just out of
Well,
interest.
well, I don't know, I've never been found guilty of it, but the News of the World said it. You know, so I can
Can they make such like?
Of course they can. They can do whatever they want to. Because my marketing company, which was called Thanks Marketing, was taking 40% of the advertising revenue from all the red top newspapers. So they had the need to shut me up. So it didn't matter if I'd have won in court, etc., at some point in time, and they paid £25 million.
It would have still never come out because then they put a lid on it. You say no.
Well, it's not just that. It would have been a small amount to pay to shut me up, in opposed to the amount of revenue that they were losing.
And again, I don't really want details, but when you say that they made a mistake to the tune of hundreds of millions of taxpayer pounds, that in itself is of interest to a whole group of people for a whole number of reasons.
It's an absolute. It's not just a convicted man
No.
saying it. It's an absolute fact.
Yeah.
It's documented.
Right.
It's public knowledge.
So again,
But
have
was
you
pushed under the carpet.
considered, apart from doing a book, doing like your own like mini documentary, covering these things, showing your side of the story, comparing it to how you were disparaged without any actual prosecution, finding you guilty, these allegations were made, but because that in itself could be quite an interesting
One of
little
my
thing to put
trials-
into film festivals and stuff, you know.
One of my trials took 8 years to get there and 91 days to do. Just one of my trials.
Right, okay. So they've had it in
I've
for you,
got
but
14 and a half years worth of prison sentence collectively over the last 20 years.
for something you didn't do. Well, then right
things
there,
that
that's a
never
whole...
existed. And I've got documents, literally documents, which have not ever been heard, which go, you can see the conspiracy through the News of the World, through the Department of Education,
Well, they all work for the government, don't they,
blah, blah,
mainstream?
all
It's
the way
all
through.
part
And
of
you
it.
can see it, and they're not my documents, they're their documents that's come off their machines.
Yeah, so it's not, you're saying that.
Now, if I was to take them to a court, they would bang on my door and says that I was...
They'd trump something else up, yes, just to shut you
and,
up.
and shut me up.
Sure.
But we have an agreement that if I leave them alone, they'll leave me alone. And as long as I'm always a convicted criminal, they don't care. Because if a book come out, or a documentary come out, etc., they'd say, he would say that anyway. And I want to leave it to people's opinion when they see...
They make
the
their own
evidence.
minds up.
They can make their own minds up. They can't give me my life back. They can't give me my wife back. They can't give me my children back. They can't give me all the time that I spend in jail. They can't do that.
No, well, nothing can. Nothing
Nothing
can.
can.
And no
Yeah,
amount of compensation will...
But I'm still
be
that
able-
ginormous entrepreneur,
Right.
and I do know 100% that myself as an artist and as a writer and as maybe as a motivational speaker, because I'm writing a book on motivation as well,
Right.
and I've got a huge story to tell. And just to expand upon it, died when I was a baby, obviously got revived, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I had 4 years worth of a paedophile messing about, 4 years worth of a bully bullying me all the way through. I had a partner and a baby died in a car crash, etc. And also had obviously built a huge multi-million-pound business and had it all taken away through the negative publicity and obviously the corrupt government. Yeah,
Yeah.
and were put back in prison because I was beginning to fight, and then found art. What foundation for an artist and a writer?
As a motivation, yeah.
But the point of the story of the book isn't to prove me innocence. That's past. I don't care no more. It is really to say that a man could go through all those negative things and still have a brand.
Yeah.
Because my brand is a stick man which opens his arms up like that, and the words are which are trademark is "I love you this much," rather than turn to bitterness.
Right, yes, that's a good one. Yes.
This-
Love conquers all. Yes, that's what we
Love conquers all, etc. And I want to put my hand around the government, round the police, round the criminal prosecution service, round everything, it doesn't matter what it will be, and say, let's go on and forget what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Let's go on together and do things properly, do things right.
Yeah.
Prove to people that the government and society is there to actually protect it, not to abuse people, not to
But
abuse.
sadly, there are all too many cases where the
It'll
government
happen,
does take advantage, does abuse, does pull its weight about. And
I tell you now, the minute I go proper public on all this, the newspapers in their own right will, all of them, bar none, absolutely crap themselves, because they've all, pretty much all, have printed something negative and were instigative and helpful within my downfall, because it was paying them
yes,
to get me down, because I was taking awful lots of business off them.
Right.
And just to give you an idea, this is all I've got left of it actually, but this was used to be my business card. And I'll just file from the one that I want. That was the business that took all the money off them.
Can I just
You can have a look at all these and photograph them, and do anything.
actually, yeah, it would be better to.
I need a friend in your industry which will do a TV programme which could be syndicated if somebody wanted to watch it, or to do this, to do that, etc., who wants to, you know.
Well, there's lots of
express
different
it
ways. I mean,
way.
nowadays you don't have to wait around for a network to say, yeah, we'll give you a slot to air that at this. You can self-publish, like I say, there's all the media channels, and there's ways that you can create followings through those channels. Again, just from the grassroots, just from word of mouth, just by telling your story and getting people, and over weeks and months that can build up into hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. And then you've got a following, then those people you can announce the launch of, you can do affiliations with other people who have had similar scrapes. There's all kinds of other networks out there, independent networks like Gaia and stuff, who produce their own content or buy in their own content to show. Even Netflix might be interested in doing a thing and saying, oh, we'll do you a deal and we'll put that up on there and we'll stream it for $1.99 and you'll get a quid for each viewing, and if you get millions of views, you're a millionaire again, aren't you?
Do it.
Know. This is it. It's just,
Let's do it.
But there are many ways that, yeah, I can see how you could go about doing that. But we've got to start from a base
Oh,
somewhere.
no, I understand that.
So obviously the base here is the art, and basically then that leads into your story of how you became an artist.
Aside all of my big story, since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to go out and help people. I was the little boy who'd help the old lady across the road and wouldn't take a 2p for tips or thing. You know, why I was like that, and I've always been like that, I really don't know. It's just, that's the way I am, and that's why my logo is I love you this much.
Right.
And why I'm not bitter about things. And when I meet somebody and I see something really good in them, and it could be just their personality, it could be what they're doing, it could be anything, I really want to help, and sometimes it ends up being a detriment to myself, which is like, that's okay.
Well, yeah.
But having said that, my future is I mentioned my huge pile of crap. I'm sick of lying underneath it.
Right.
I want to get right on the top of it and tell the world, no matter what happens to you as an individual in your life, is you can move forward in it. You can create something fantastic. You can have anything that you want to have, from a materialistic point of view, from a success point of view, but more importantly, from a happiness point of view.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because when you get the money, you all think that's the end of the be all, and then you get there and you buy the fancy toys and things, and then you realise
It's
This is
nothing.
it. It's all about inner contentment, inner peace, just the joy of life, appreciating everything for the simplest things that they
I
are.
had houses all over the world, prospectively a £500 million turnover. I had 51 racehorses. I had Aston Martin. I had everything. But my very first day in jail, a young muscle man with drugs up his backside said to me, "I've seen you on the television, I bet you're gutted." And I said to him, "Yeah, I am gutted. I am so gutted." And he went on to say, "You had all this, you had all that, the loss of everything, the loss of all that money. Yeah, you're gutted." And that was an epiphany moment for me. It's because I've never thought about the loss of anything materialistic at all. I was just thinking that I'd lost my family.
Yeah.
I'd lost my liberty, I'd lost my life, I lost my dignity. And all those things were much, much more important to me. And how was I going to get them back?
Yeah.
And all the way through my jail sentences, I was true of the best. Made sure I was the best prisoner that there ever was. And just from the prison stories, from my prison cell, I won 2 major flower shows with gardens, Tatton Park and Harrogate, different sentences. Exhibited with Anthony Gormley, sold at Sotheby's, built a huge garden on an RAF base whilst I was in prison.
How did you do that?
Well, that's the
part
book
of
and the
why,
story.
okay.
It's too much for this.
Now-
But it gives you an idea of how big it is. Sorry, I was just getting sidetracked.
Okay.
It does sound it's all about me, but it's not. It's not all about me. It's about everybody who could be influenced with my or by my story into a positive realm in their life.
Yeah.
And I suppose I've put the likes of the Duchess in with that.
Yeah.
Her coming through the door in wherever she was in her life, you know, was a great thing for me, but also a good thing for her, you know, and I want to do that 1,000,000 times over.
Right.
I want to tell my story to the world, not because it makes me feel good, it's because it makes me feel good because somebody else has actually got something out of it.
Yeah, and can relate
If it
to
makes me a millionaire,
benefit.
whoop-de-doody, would be
Yeah.
great. If it doesn't, it just gives me a great living, that's great, or an average, or just a living.
Yeah.
But the poignancy of it all is, I'm writing the book, telling the story,
So you're writing it yourself?
To do
You've got a
something.
ghostwriter, you're actually writing it yourself?
I'm dictating it and
Right.
ladies
Oh,
are typing it out.
Alright.
So it's how as I want it to be.
Right, okay. Yeah, because you're the ultimate arbiter of how you want to get your story.
I could
out.
talk for England,
Right, okay.
you know, and so it's coming up good. We've got 10 chapters done. There's about another 10 to go. It's being condensed because there's
Right.
probably 20 or 30 books within it.
Right,
And
okay.
I want to be in the position at some point in time to be able to give them away free. At some point in time, it won't be this week,
Well, no.
you know, because we you know we need
Yes.
to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But it really, really is.
Have you considered setting up like a charitable foundation to help people who have been misdealt or
I think
treated a bad hand?
It's set up in principle, but it's not active because we're not there yet.
Well, no, but
Well,
I'm
that
just
will
saying
happen
it's
in the
because
future.
you can do all these different things now, like you can crowdfund.
I love you this much.
Yeah, and so somebody might sit down and go, I like that
Absolutely.
guy,
Yeah.
I'm getting a good vibe off him, there you go, I'm going to go send him 50 quid. And if you get that multiplied by thousands, you can
Yeah.
literally, through these GoFundMe accounts and this, you can generate hundreds of thousands of pounds a year from
Absolutely.
people all around the world who are just relating to your story. And this is what I was telling Sheila,
Absolutely. Yeah.
is that when you get to a certain price point, which for some reasons is around £1,000, basically after that price point, when it's a luxury item, then people buy not so, as much as the artwork, they're buying the story behind
Absolutely,
the artwork,
yeah.
the why this came into being, or what's the backstory of the person behind that. So when they're informal wine parties or whatever in their big houses, oh, that's a lovely piece. Oh, it's all about telling that story which you've
Yeah.
given them to these people, and that's as much the reason, bizarrely, they'll buy as the actual art itself, for the backstory.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you get that, you hone it, it's something memorable, it's something that, like I say, a parable that will people like to repeat to people, and that will get your word out there. Because again, if you do it right, for every sale you make, you should be getting your customers who relate to you from the why you're doing it. They actually relate to you. That's why your art's important to them. Who will actively then promote you to their friends and circles. And you should really be looking at getting like 6 to a dozen referrals from each client, which will then generate 1 or 2 more sales, which is called what they call in marketing the never-ending chain. So one client becomes another client, becomes another client, and so on and so forth, and it expands out. Now, obviously, because you are not a machine, you're finite limited to the number of hours in the day that you can paint and do things.
Absolutely.
There's only so many paintings a year that you could sell.
So many paintings.
And how, so just ballpark, but how long does it take you? Or like when it comes to goes, what's your output per year in terms of how many?
If I was motivated in the right direction,
Yeah,
I
sure.
could do a great painting in 20 hours.
In a day? Well, say maybe 2 a week then. You do it 40-hour weeks, but that's probably, I don't know how artists don't do by the clock, do they? So it's 1 a week, 1 every 2 weeks, 1 a month.
If I'm motivated properly, yeah.
So you're looking at only like 12 to 24 works a year. If you could sell them, that would generate you a reasonable income, and then anything else is just a bonus. Is that?
If we looked at art as being the main income, yeah. But
Well, no, it's just one of the multiple streams.
art is a platform for not just for prosperity.
Yeah, let me just
It's a platform to pass information out. I'll just show you one I've got over here. I'll bring it over. I painted this 2 years ago. It's quite a simple paint. It's not no great shapes. But me as passive the artist, this sums up what I am going to do. That is number 10 Downing Street, the door. There is passive the artist. He's spraying paint through his paintings, through the letterbox of that, by taking the stories of the common people and their problems through art into 10 Downing Street. And that's why, if you like, my downfall was instigated in some way by a Prime Minister called Tony Blair, and my arm round a Prime Minister was the painting that I did for the latest Prime Minister, one of the latest Prime Ministers, in Boris Johnson. So I have a massive ulterior motive to take as many stories, no matter what they are, through art and through literature, and stick them through that letterbox, and if need be, embarrass governments into doing the right thing.
Right, okay, that's...
And that's why my website was, which is taken down at the minute, was passiverebellion.com.
Right. Yeah, now is that going to go back up? Or is
It
that
will do, but when the time's right. It's just
Okay.
houseofart.co.uk at this minute in time. But that's something separate. And maybe, as the likes of Sheila will be wanting to get on that bandwagon, and for her part, do something very similar. It might not be as vocal as I am. It might just be put her arm around someone. That's why I love it this much.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, if it gives her a happy and profitable life, or helps drive that, that's a fantastic thing. Whatever it will be.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully there's lots and lots of others. They don't have to be into art. They just need to listen to the messages.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of people out there who really don't have an appreciation for art, and they really don't know much about it. So when it comes to building your following, in marketing, if we do something like a tripwire, which is where people come to your website, they look at it, they show interest, and you say, oh, well, if you'd like to know more about investing in art, or if you'd like to know more about how to appreciate art, give us your best email address and we'll send you a free doodah, which you can download, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people, oh, that would be good, because next time at the meeting and art comes up, I won't be shying away into a corner. I'll be oh, yes, yeah, I know. Just from that little
Maybe a poem on hope that I've written.
Anything,
it doesn't matter.
Yes.
If it helps that person go from whatever trajectory they are in their life to move the 1 degree that is needed to put them on a path to a happy, successful life, to whatever degree that needs to be for them, that's what it's about.
So to me, I'm seeing now that that could be a whole separate thing in terms of explaining what you do. Then you could have the website, which would be a vehicle for the book, but at the same time you could make it like a community where like-minded people can come together and share their stories, because it's like affiliate marketing. If you've got a story and you've got something that many people can relate to in some way, and you can get them to join on, it not only makes your voice louder, it also amplifies their voices because they feel they're not lost in the wilderness. So they could come on there and they could share their things, and through that affiliation, like I said, then you could do this and say, we're now trying to crowdfund this so we can have a bit more space for people to join, to interact, to maybe even upload videos, have their own little social media thing for the art world. So there's a number of different ways. So, but enough of my, from your point, you're going to use this as the springboard onto other things. And so the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first footstep. You have to start somewhere, so it's the little steps to get the following going, to build it up, to hopefully get more interest, to make more sales, to get your word out there. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Right.
From a personal point of view, my personal says, away now.
Right.
Everything's got to be now, but the understanding of getting it now, I do understand that, but it all takes structure.
Yes,
and
and
time.
it takes planning and it takes organisation and then implementation.
What is now really, is, I suppose, before I die, it needs to come off, it needs to be good, it needs to be fantastic, it needs to go around the world. In 2-ish years' time, I want to be in the likes of Wembley Stadium, talking to 200,000 people.
Well, again, if your story gets out there and you get it distributed to the right channels, it only takes one of those channels to go viral, and you've suddenly got hundreds of thousands or millions of people viewing that thing, which then, just off the back of that alone, you could have a talking career on the lecture stage, doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Even like TEDx talks where you say that, you know, so this is a guy who worked hard all his life, he built a business up, then the government decided you were going to be the fall guy, all the trials, the turmoils you went through, how you picked yourself back up, dusted yourself off, did the art, which then progressed to this social media site, which progressed to X, Y, you know, and you can do a whole lecture thing on that. So again, it's starting with the basics. Now, when you say like the 2-year thing, so with me, when I was in business, I was a big like storyboard guy, and I was big into like, okay, so let's break it down. So where's the end goal? What's the realistic timeline for that? Okay, 4 or 5 years. Okay, let's chunk it down. Okay, so what do I want to achieve by which point? Okay, so now, where are we this year? Okay, so what do I want? So what can I do today to like, right, I can pick up the phone,
well,
I can make these people, I can write a letter, I can do, and set it out, because it keeps it, well for me, it gives me a focus. Some people are more intuitive and they just kind of do it, you know, what the heart feels right. So there's lots of different ways. So with that 2-year kind of time plan, do you already have some idea of what you want to do, when you want the book finished, when you want it published, when...
The book will be finished by the end of January, ready to go to be
next year?
Published.
Like this coming?
This coming.
Oh, that's pretty soon, yeah.
Yeah.
When you said you're halfway, I thought maybe another year before you've... No.
Those 10 chapters I dictated in the last 3-ish weeks.
Oh, right, okay, so it's going to be...
It's all down to people typing and then putting it into a good format and things like that.
Now, did you say you had a title for the book yet?
It's Mike's Magic.
Mike's Magic. Right, okay, so we need to... It's a good title, because a good title can make or break a book. Right, literally. There was a guy back in the 40s who used to just buy books from poor artists and used to just put like a little one-line thing and put it in at a set price in newspapers. And what he found is that just by changing the title, doing nothing else, he could actually increase sales 50, 60, 70 times just by changing the title. And he would literally each week run it with a different title, and he would like check and see, and that's the one. Now that's nothing last year, sold 5,000 this year. And so on. So a title's really important, but just as important is the image that goes with that. So whether it's a picture of you, just doing the I love you thing with Magic Mike, and you know, and then you know, Mike's Magic. Sorry. Okay.
It's someone different, isn't it?
And then a sub tag about, you know, what that's about, something that will grab people's eyes. Then again, there's a whole different thing. Like, the most effective marketing is the more outrageous you want to be. But some people say, well, I don't want to be outrageous, you know. So Mike's Magic, it's like, well, you could have you as a magician casting a spell, and you could do that with a nice Photoshop background and put that up there. Or you could, it all depends on where you want to go. But the more outrageous it is, the more eye-catching it is, the more people are likely to buy. That's just a fact. So
my original title for the book was Life's Like a Shit Sandwich.
not a good title. That wouldn't sell. Because
I don't know about that, but
well, it might to a certain
neither
market.
you or me can be definitive on that. You know, what sells will sell, but you may well be right. But you may
Well, this is
be wrong.
why we do split testing. So you have title A, title B, title C, cover A, cover B, cover C, and you just split test it and say, so how many clicks did that get when I put that on Amazon as that, with that title? How many clicks did I get? And it doesn't cost you anything, because you can do the meter analysis for free. They'll give you that data for free. So you can see, okay, so X number of people visited that, they spent this amount of time on each page, which means they read the first paragraph, or they read the first page, or they read all of it. And you can find out again about who your market is and what they're attracted to before you finally say, right, so that's going to be the cover, that's going to be the title, because the evidence shows. So, you know, so that's all just down to the nitty gritty of the
Another
market
one was
and
it's
stuff.
difficult being Mr. Smallman. But who knows which is the best one? You know, they're just all there at the minute. But the minute it's Mike's Magic.
Okay,
It seems
right.
to be very fitting with it because of some of the content of the book.
Right, okay. So that's going to be finished early next year. Have you thought about what platforms you're going to do it? I'm assuming you're going to be putting it on
I got
Amazon
at
books
this minute
and-
in time, like you say, you take it in the various stages. This stage at this minute in time is get it written.
Yes, just get it done. Yes.
Although I've got a big gob and I go on and on and on and on and on, probably a little bit like yourself at sometimes, etc. Is I know I am not an island and I need people
Sure, we will.
to do that. You know, to be honest with you, for me to go and teach myself about Twitter and God knows wherever else, ain't happening. I haven't got the brain for it.
Right.
I need people about us who can go and
So
actually.
I'm willing to help, but that does take a certain commitment of X hours every week to do that kind of thing. So do you have friends or people who could help you do that if you can't commit to doing that yourself? Because that's, yeah. I mean, I can give you tips and pointers and stuff, but it's literally coming down to where you're going to have to do at least an update every week on your blog or your vlog or whatever.
I am profoundly dyslexic as well, you see, so that doesn't help.
But talking to camera, you seem fine, and
yeah.
and people would,
Yeah.
as I said, much rather watch videos.
I've had paparazzi TV crews from all over the world follow me around the streets for years.
Regarding that stuff,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, I've been on TV, I've been in radio, I've done the whole lot. That's fine.
Right,
I've done a few blogs myself, but I never sent them away.
right, okay.
You know, it is. But I think when you've gone through, I know it's hard to believe, 59 years of shit, and you've kept your head above water from a mental point of view.
Yes.
There are certain things that you just cannot concentrate on because you've got to get the bigger picture out there.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and it's I lose my head. Now, I had a meeting yesterday with the North Yorkshire County Council, which I've waited for 6 weeks for, to put me on a course which teaches me about social media.
Right.
The meeting yesterday lasted 4.5 minutes saying, sorry, we haven't got any courses. And I think it was, why did I wait all that time?
So I'm assuming that you wrote to them because you were applying to go on the course that did exist, and then
No, I asked them, is there anything? What can
Oh,
you
right.
do for me? I need social media. I have to have it.
Right.
Of
course, yeah.
I'm not so daft that I don't understand what it is,
Yeah.
but physically using it, I've never done.
It's a lot easier now than it used to be. They have made it a lot more user friendly and easy to do and easy to get to grips with it. So non-techie people can quite easily go on and create their profiles. Like say whether you're doing LinkedIn, whether you for business to business, whether you're doing your Twitter and your YouTube and your
Yeah, but
Facebook and
it's how you physically work them, isn't it?
Sure, yeah, and there's a number of ways that you. So again, you could just do a summary over the weekend. So
How do you use it now? You know, the amount of people that I would know who I could say, look at this, will be 2. How does it get out there?
Oh, you mean how do you make people aware of what?
Aware of it, yeah.
Well, again, there is a number of ways. You can do it through affiliate marketing, where you get in touch with people who are in some ways doing a similar thing from their own angle, and you can say, look, this is what I'm doing, so I will review and promote your book if you review and promote my book. You know, I will...
But you need to know those people.
Well, yes, but it's relatively easy to find them. I mean, you just create an account on LinkedIn and you just put all your profile things in, and it'll just make loads of suggestions as to the kind of people you should be linking up with.
See, this is the thing I need to know from the courses, because I don't use them. I don't know what they do, I know what they are, but I don't know all the ins and outs of how it physically works and so on.
Right, but having been a successful businessman, you're obviously a fairly smart guy.
Oh, because I can pick it up like that.
So that's what I'm saying. So
Well,
I
have the
can say,
constitution, mind concentration to physically do it when you've got to go and earn a living, etc., and you've got to do a painting and you've got to go and do something else. Do I have the time for it? I don't know.
well, that's the thing. It's like, because if you're going to do it, you can't do it piecemeal. If you want to do it and you want to do it successfully, you do have to commit to say, I am going to update my blog or my vlog weekly. I'm going to send out to the people who have given me my email address a monthly newsletter, which might take you an afternoon to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if you think, when I had 17 businesses, I had 600 or 700 staff, I would think of an idea, I would put it into the mix, and they would go and do whatever they need to
you're
do.
the ideas guy.
You
Right,
see,
yeah.
so that's probably how I physically am, and because there's so much going to happen, I'm going to need as much help from whomever
Right,
to
okay.
happen, because it would be physically impossible for this person, any person, to go and do everything that is needed to be done.
Absolutely, yeah. But with that kind of, from what you've just said about your story and stuff, I'm sure with that kind of the high profile, I mean, you're talking with prime ministers, you're talking with governments, you're talking with secretaries of whatever it is. So you're going to find, again, talented amateurs who have got lots of time and who are really doing this thing themselves. And you could say, would you like to be my representative and to help me share my story on this? And it's a great story, and some of that magic's going to rub off on you. I don't think you're going to have to wait too long before people say, I'll handle your Twitter account, I'll do your Facebook account, I'll do your YouTube account, and then you just basically have a chat with them over the phone once a week, and they record it all, write up your ideas, update the things, beep, 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 and do it for you. So this is, again, this is where working in cooperation rather than competing against people.
No, I understand that. And what tends to happen, though, because I want to know the whole of the story, etc., I've had someone sat on there, because there's an organisation just round the corner, a commercial organisation that does all of those things. And he sat on there 3 or 4 months ago, and I was willing to go out and work for 40 hours so I could give him his £2,000 a week to do it. And he never came back,
No.
because they crap themselves when they know the whole of the thing. Do I want somebody that's rubbing off on me?
See, so again, it's about explaining your why, finding the people that resonate with your story, with the why you're doing it, and then through that connection, they will say, I'm all with you on that, I know where you're about, I've even maybe had something similar myself, which is why I started doing this, and I'm more than happy to give you a few hours of my time each week to help you promote that. Because a lot of these people do it for their friends, they do it for their families, they'll even do it, like I say, as a freebie thing for the community centre, where it's like, right, who wants this and that, and we'll update it. You can just find the right people, and they'll say, well, yeah, I'll give you an extra hour a week for that, an extra hour a week for that. You'd be surprised how much people will be willing to do for free, just as long as you get that relationship about why you're doing what you're doing and where you're coming from. And if people relate to that, though, you'd be surprised how many people will be willing to say, yeah, I'll help you. Yeah. So like I say, I'm only one person, I have retired, I like my leisurely life, I'm more than happy to help people wherever I can, but there are obviously finite limits. It's not like I can say I can give you 5 hours every week for the next 10 years, it's just, but there are going to be people out there who will, people who are quite happy to tell your story and have like an exclusive on their YouTube channel, because you must have seen it plenty of times. I don't know if you do social media, but you know, where you go to someone, it's like, oh, this week's guest is this guy, you know, and stay tuned for next week because we've got this fascinating story and you won't believe all the intrigue and this and that, and it'll sound really good, and it's my tune in next week, fans. And if they've got like hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, and you can get one of them, like I say, that could go viral, and that opens so many doors for you.
It's fine, and it's taking those first few steps to set up.
So this is why it's important that on the website you have a press pack, yeah, where people can basically go, they can find out a bit about you, about where you're coming from, about what you're doing now, what you're planning on doing in the near future, what the end goal is, and telling that all in a story which gets them running little mental pictures, which you can do with certain phrases and stuff, and then get them to, then you just then fire it out to everyone, mass mail it out. You know, here's a guy and he's open to doing interviews anywhere in the world because he can do it through social media, through the phone, whatever, or we can Skype it or whatever. Would you be interested? And you just mass mail it out to thousands of these people who've all got the followers. And it's dead easy to do. I mean, literally you could do a little search in Facebook and say, right, so I'm looking for Facebook users who have got 100,000 supporters, fans, like whatever, regularly do posts, regularly interview people, and it'll just drill down through all the data. It'll go, there you go, there's that lot. How many? And you pick thousands of them. So you just send the thing out to them, and you wait and see if they or one of their members of their team contact you, and it only takes one.
You know,
it only takes one.
I didn't know
you know.
that existed, you see, because I don't do social media.
Ah, right, so yes. So there are ways to actually get that, and then all you do is you just create your like press pack, and then you just write a nice little story, and you send it to them, you know, blah, 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 and I'm open to give talks, I'm open to do, you know, webinars with you, to discuss my story about the upcoming book. Now again, there's sites that just review books. You say, well, I've got an upcoming book, it's a hell of a story. Do you want to have, you know, the expose and be the vehicle through which it promotes and launches this book? I'm sure you know plenty of people fighting out there for that one. Yeah, I'll interview you and I'll promote you and I'll get you on the list and I'll, you know. So there are ways of doing that. Yeah.
Right,
So again, it's just sitting where you are, because I don't know what your political stance is. Some people say I'm not going to talk to them because they supported that.
Doesn't matter.
But if you're open-minded, it opens a lot more doors.
Yeah, I'm apolitical. Doesn't make a difference.
Right.
They're all the same to me. The
Right.
blue or red.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like Manchester United, the Manchester City. You know.
Right. Okay. So.
So anyway, you know the background, blah 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 blah. So back to the beginning.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and please help us as much as you possibly can.
I will. Yeah. Like I say, but I am. Please be aware, it's not just you. There's a number of other people that I'm helping, and I do give a considerable amount of my free time each.
Absolutely.
You know. So it might be cycling around, and it's like, well, you might not hear from me for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. If you can imagine you helping this, etc., is going to help a very lot of people on the long run. So it sounds like it's about me. The storyline might be about me, but it really is. The baseline is to help as many other people come through their adversity
Yes.
as they possibly can, irrespective of whatever that adversity is. That is always the underlying story.
So again, it's about how to take that story and how to angle it to different markets so that they can relate to it in different ways, because you can see that aspect of the story can pull them in.
Yeah.
That aspect of that story can relate to them.
Yeah.
That aspect of that story,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
And again, if you, even something simple like, I don't know if you went to counselling, you could say I went to counselling and these people were brilliant, and you give them a plug and they'll promote your book because you're giving them a plug. Anything in that story, try to start to look at it and say, who would that appeal to? That. You know, even like you say, I was in prison for years with, you know, proper tough convicts who were really, you know, but I managed to relate to them, you know, this, that, the other, or whatever it is. And then suddenly you've got all of that, people coming out of prison, trying to find a job, they've got the whole stigma of maybe some trivial little thing that they did when a kid following them, you know, their hardship, it helps to relate. And it's just like a spider web, you can just diversify out in so many ways. But I won't really be able to help you with that till I've actually read the book, and I can actually then start spinning and going, right, okay, so chapter 1, how would that relate to people how do we contact those people, what would be the best way to grab their attention, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You with me?
That's all to come, isn't it?
Sure, yeah.
Let's get show the road.
Right, so, did I give you your questionnaire, Sheila? Oh, actually, you've got it on email, haven't you? Right, oh, okay, right. So we can do that some other time, like say, or when you've
When it's ready, yeah.
yeah, and then you can just do it on whatever.
Yeah. We're just artists, aren't we? In the art of art.
Then if you want, I can, yeah, you could send it to me and I could create you like a YouTube, just, because they're literally 5-10 minutes to go in and set up and go, right, I've now got my own Facebook page, right, I've now got my own YouTube channel, yeah, I've got my own LinkedIn account. It doesn't really take long to set it up, and then you just kind of fill in the blanks as you go.
Yeah.
And like saying that, I think you're going to be able to find people to help you do that, and all you have to do is just give them little updates, and they'll just fill in all the boxes for you and whatever, and get them working for you. And this is the thing: if people relate to you as to why, what you're about, and you can touch them here, then people will do things they wouldn't have done for any amount of money, even if you were paying them. Like that guy around the corner, he wanted $2,000 a week or whatever to do what he's going to do. Who's to say is any good? Who's your biggest client? You know, what's your biggest story? How many clicks has it had? They're the questions I would have asked him, because you want that kind of money. You're not getting anything close to that till you can prove to me I'm going to get that back with a return on investment.
Sure.
And you know. So anyway, I think
Back to the stage one.
yes.
So, do you want to go? Are you ready to
Well,
go?
hang on. So I'll just